Good afternoon. My name is Janet Justice, and I work in the Education and Events Department at FTD. I want to welcome you to our webinar titled, You Aren't Going to Find Great Employees, You Have to Build Them One at a Time. Today, you will learn the steps to creating a great staff that works together and allows you to be a leader. Tom Shay with Profits+Plus will be leading this informative webinar. Tom is a fourth-generation retailer, as well as an author, columnist, business coach, and retail keynote speaker. He has authored 10 books on retail, as well as written over 400 articles for 70 retailer-oriented trade publications. With over 25 years of frontline experience in management and ownership of small businesses, Tom shares and teaches from experience, not from theory. His experiences provide him with the knowledge and background to present tried and proven ideas to assist owners, managers, and staff with the day-to-day operation of their business. Once Tom is finished with his presentation, we will open the webinar up for questions. If you have a question, simply type it in the question box on the upper right side of your screen. We will take the questions in the order they are received. Please feel free to submit your questions during the presentation as well. We will hold them until the Q&A portion of the webinar. So without further ado, I would like to turn the call over to Tom to begin the webinar. Tom?
Janet, thank you, and thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon. I'm excited about the possibility of being with you this afternoon, and I have to throw in the word possibility because I'm calling you from Florida, and let's see, I think we are sometimes referred to as the Sunshine State, but we're not the Sunshine State today. We haven't been the Sunshine State for about the last 5 days, and we're not going to be the Sunshine State for the next few days. We are dealing with a special guest here in our state right now by the name of Debbie, known as Tropical Storm Debbie, and she has done nothing but provide us with a lot of wind, a lot of rain, storms, tornadoes. And at this point, the windy city of Chicago has nothing on us because it is plenty windy down here. So while we are dealing with the possibility of being blown away here in Florida, I'm hoping that this afternoon that with what I'm going to share with you information-wise, that I will blow you away with the information and what this can do for your business. I share this from personal experience of having created this, tried this in our business, shared it with many other retailers, finding that it works, and then expecting that you're going to blow away your customers by doing what other people simply talk about. And that is giving great customer service. It's not something that's just going to happen. It requires a plan. It requires an effort. It requires a repeated effort. And my time with you this afternoon is going to explain to you, as the title suggests, that you are not going to go out and find great employees. Even with the high unemployment rate in the United States today, whether your state is at 7% or your state is at 10%, you're not going to find great employees standing out there on street corners waiting for you to find them and hire them. Instead, to have a great team, you have to engage these people and build a great team one employee at a time. Now, the neat part is this requires just a short number of simple steps to make this happen in your business. The answer is 11. Follow these 11 steps. Let me suggest that you follow them exactly as I share them with you, because we have tried them in our business. We have experimented with it. We have changed it. We have tweaked it. We've tried things that did not make sense to it and have found that this is the key way to having a staff that is just extraordinary, because they are engaged, they are part of your business, and they're ready to help you make your business even stronger. Now, where it traditionally starts out, for people, when I speak to people and ask them about, do you do something for your people? And I will hear, yes, I do. Yes, I do have it. And quite often the word that I hear is people saying that I have a training program. Now, what a training program, when I visit in depth with these folks, what I find out it leads to even more is that their training program is simply a gripe session. It's where the owner or the manager of the business is going to attempt to solve some kind of problem, some kind of challenge within the business. And the key factors that I see happening in this is that they occur with no scheduling to it whatsoever. They are held at the point where you are just so mad, you are so furious, you're aggravated because of something that a customer has said to you, said to one of your employees, and you think, I've just got to get this solved. So what happens with these events is that they will focus primarily on what somebody did wrong to some customer and how some customer came back, or how we lost an order, whether we just lost it in the system or whether we lost a customer entirely because they are so mad at us that they'll never do business with us again, and then they're going to go out and tell everyone they know on Twitter, everyone they know on Facebook. They're going to post it in Yelp. They're going to post it in Foursquare. They're going to tell as many people as they possibly can because they are so mad at us that they just want a measure of revenge against us. So this is how these meetings commonly start out. It's a gripe session. And they go on, once you tell everyone to get together, they go on until you finally just wind down. You've said everything you can. It's like a kid having a temper tantrum. You've watched a small child, they have their temper tantrum, they scream, they holler, they throw things, they do all kinds of things, and then you can just see all that energy leave their body, and they're sitting there, and they have that, and now the session's over. Or it also has the possibility of ending a bit earlier when the person who made the mistake will confess that it's their fault, that they actually did cause the problem. They will promise you that they will never do it again. They will perhaps try to pass the blame around to several other people. You'll listen to the story. Or perhaps the person is going to get so mad that you're mad that they just decide they're going to quit, and they get up and they walk out and they're through as an employee, and now you're at the situation of, well, now where do we go? Well, I think you can tell from someone, myself, who has conducted some of these gripe meetings, that they don't work real well, that they create problems. They are a challenge. For one, they cause you to get a reputation as a manager and owner as being somewhat of a hothead. If they didn't think it before, now they do think it, that you have a short temper and you can just go off at a moment's notice when things don't go the way that you want them to go. Number two, when you have these gripe sessions, you can see it in your employees' eyes that when you tell them that we're going to have a staff meeting, the eyes roll in the back of their head and they go, oh gosh, not again. They know what they're going to have. The total purpose of this meeting is predictable. They know that you've got nothing good that you're going to say during them. It's going to take and become another one of those sessions. And sometimes they don't even produce the results that you would like to have them produce. So, hopefully most of us have learned from having tried this, have used it, and found that, I believe there's that definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and thinking we're going to get different results. Hopefully we've come to a realization that this hasn't worked, it's not working now, nor is it going to work going forward for us. So at that point, what we need to look at is, let's revise the idea. Let's try step number 2, moving past the gripe sessions into a format that will actually work for your business. Now, let me preface it that while we call it a staff meeting, we prefer to use the word education. Not training, education. And the point that I made to my employees is that we educate. You can train a cat, you can train a dog, and you can train the seals at the zoo, as well as the other animals. But people do not want to be trained. They want to be educated. You have hired these people because you thought they were intelligent, you thought they were qualified to perform certain tasks, and you expect them to do it. And I believe it's an old Theodore Roosevelt quote that says, the sign of great management is being able to hire someone of intelligence and then leave them alone, having the good sense to leave them alone, and let them do what you have hired them to do. So these staff meetings, number one, they need to be an hour long. I've experimented with it shorter and longer. An hour is at 60 minutes. And I believe the relevancy here is that it looks a whole lot like a class that you had in school. When you were in high school, when you were in college, you primarily had classes that were 1 hour long. The second key component is that these meetings need to be held every other week. Okay? Not weekly, because then it becomes too much of a routine, eating up a certain part of a person's daily schedule. Number two, you can't go 3 weeks because people at 3 weeks have a problem with remembering which week is on and which 2 weeks are off. Once a month becomes too far apart because that what's going to occur is there's more things that you're going to want to talk about. If you made a list and you had 10 or 15 items on your list, then items after number 12, you're talking about them a year from now. So it's every other week that works. Before or after the normal business hours, you do not want to have them while your customers can be there. You do not want to have them while you can answer the telephones, because it's an interruption. You lose the flow of the meeting, and the person conducting the class gets disrupted. Someone gets disrupted answering the telephone. People get disrupted by customers coming in, and the meeting just falls apart. It's got to be held when it can be completely in private. The next component is attendance is required. Now, each person's state has different guidelines for this as to, can you bring someone in for a 1-hour work schedule? Are you required to pay for multiple hours? Something that you need to check in within your own state. But from our experience here in Florida, we could simply have a 1-hour staff meeting. We required everyone to participate in them by attending, and we paid them for their hour of being at the meeting. Now, one other addition that we found after we got this going that we added to it that worked very, very well was that we changed our schedule, tweaked it ever so slightly, so that if our business was opening at 9 a.m., we changed work schedules to where people came at 8:45 a.m. Whoever my staff was on schedule for that day, not the entire staff, but whoever was scheduled to be there in the store at 9 o'clock, your schedule now said be there at 8:45. We had an impromptu stand-up, this is important, standing up meeting, no sitting down anywhere. Standing up shows a degree of urgency. Everyone, as was always one of the requirements in our business, was required to have a pen in their hand, was required to have a small notebook to take notes about what we needed to get done today. And this is what the 15-minute meeting was all about. What's today? What needs to be unpacked? What deliveries need to be made? What preparations are we doing for what type of events and that need to be completed during the course of today's work sessions? 15 minutes beforehand, and then, because it never lasted 15 minutes, you very pleasantly surprise your customers by opening up 5 or 6 minutes early. See customers at the door, you open it up, come on in, let me take care of you. They notice that your hours are 9 a.m., and the fact that you have opened up a few minutes early, too many people are used to going to a business where when it says 9 o'clock, they're 5 and 10 minutes late. The class needs to have a written guide. It's nothing more than an 8.5 by 11. You can get kind of cute with it and put your business logo on it, put the date on it, and simply list, this is what we're going to talk about during class. As compared to the gripe session format, this says, I have worked on a schedule. This is what we're going to accomplish today. And the things that you want to include will be a policy or a procedure. We're going to explain these in a brief moment. A policy or procedure, perhaps a job description or a job specification. One of these 4 areas that deals with everyday work, we're going to include this as a part of our class. We're going to discuss how we are working, how we are to be selling, how we are to be providing services, how we are to be cooperating and working with each other. Something in there is to be a part of our class. And then we provide a written test. A written test, it has 10 questions on it. The questions are going to be of a essay type format, meaning that there are no multiple choice, there's no yes or no answers, but I'm going to ask you a question and I want a short 2 to 3 sentence answer to it. They are required to be handed in to the office 48 hours after the completion of the class, and they are graded. And this is a part of, as you will see, your job review that shows your participation and your growing knowledge in our business. Step number 3, policies and procedures. And this is probably what created the gripe session, is that we have things that we're not doing correctly inside the business. So we define policies and procedures like this. Our policies were our guidelines to ourselves. For example, does your business have a policy as to what your employees are to wear? In the shop? For delivery? Do you have a policy with regard to how you are to answer the telephone? Do you have a policy about whether or not you can put a customer on hold and how you are to do it? Do you have a policy that deals with how to resolve any sort of a customer complaint? Policies overall are our guidelines to ourselves as to how we are to behave. A procedure is our guidelines of how we are to take care of our customers. What are we supposed to be doing for them? They can cover any broad spectrum that you see as an issue that needs to be resolved within your business. This is always a work in progress, and this is something that's going to take and grow. Our next component is what we called knowledge sharing. We are going to talk with all of our people during some of our meetings about things such as our advertising. So when we put a message somewhere, we may take and explain our Yellow Page advertising. We may explain some of our internet advertising. We may explain our Facebook message. We may explain anything that we are doing as a means to take and get our message out there to our customers. The second one is an acronym, ACES. With regards to knowledge sharing, ACES stands for Around Customers, Everybody Sells. One of the issues we dealt with initially were employees who thought that these staff meetings had nothing to do with them. I do delivery. That has nothing to do with me. I work behind the counter. I don't ever speak to a customer. This doesn't have anything to do with me. And the answer was, yes, it does. Everything has something to do with you because it is our interaction with our customers and our employees. Around customers, everybody sells. Think about a person making delivery for your business. When they go to the front door, there's a wonderful opportunity to say something about the arrangement that's being delivered and even about something else that's new that's just arrived at your shop that you could tell them would make a wonderful display for a home arrangement for the 4th of July. Part of our knowledge sharing was, what do we sell? Explain to people, here are all the products that we sell, as well as here's all of the services that we provide. So someone may take and say, yes, we're very good at taking care of a bar mitzvah. Yes, we're very good at creating things for a funeral. Yes, we're very good at taking care of creating arrangements for your churches, for Sunday worship services. We need everyone to understand these are all the different things that we can do. Too many times we take it for granted. Well, my employees all know that. No, they don't. We take our time. We explain it in detail. Here's what we can do. Here's examples of what we can do. We want to make a point that everyone learns in selling how to get past what it is that the customer walked in the door and asked for, what they wanted, getting to what they need. You think about a customer that calls, how many times do they order flower arrangements? How many times do they come in to order flower arrangements? And yet we do this every day. What we need to be doing is explaining to our staff that we are more qualified to know what the customer needs as compared to what the customer actually walked in the door and wanted, and that we can far surpass what their initial interest was just by listening to them and asking questions of them. And this is another part that takes practice. How do you ask questions of our customers? Well, the next step, number 5, is where we're coming to the time where we begin to grow the business. We have gotten past the solving the problems. We've gotten past gripe sessions, creating our policies and procedures based upon putting out fires in the business. Our next step is, where would I like my business to go? What kind of experience would I like people to have? And experience is the key word here. How do I have the ability to improve the experience that everyone working in my business has in working with each other? To create a cohesive team, how do I want them to work together? As an example, we created a policy that dealt with the issue of people being absent from work. I think about a friend of mine who works in the hospital situation that I had dinner with last night, and she was commenting about a problem because of the storms that we were having here, and a night or two ago they were missing 8 nurses and an intensive care unit. Now, few of us have a shop that's big enough that we would have 8 employees that we could possibly miss at any one particular time. But no matter the fact if you're a 3-person shop and one person doesn't show up, it creates a challenge. And so what we created, I mean, when I say we, it was our entire staff working together. None of these were created by me as an owner and handed to the staff and said, this is what you're going to do. We engaged our staff, asked them questions, and said, what do you think that we should do? Now, I can tell you a little secret that will help shorten it is you look for the people who work for you who really want to work hard. I mean, you know who they are. Probably most of us take and rate our employees as to the best to the worst employee. You get the one who's really engaged, and you simply, in conversation with them, drop a comment or two about, do you think there's a way we could make this better? And listen to what they have to say. And then when you have your next staff meeting, you mention this person by name and say, well, we were talking the other day, and this employee made this comment about how we could make something better. And you look at the employee, and they'll say something to all their fellow employees. Yeah, that's right, I did say that. Now, it doesn't come like it's an edict coming from you. It is a comment from one of their fellow employees, and they're more apt to hear what it is that someone is saying. So with regard to the absences, one evening during our session, we created policy, and it was simply a nice little couple of paragraphs that said, we're a small business. It's kind of neat to be in a small business because we become more like a family. But there's also a problem when we are a small business, is that when one person is missing, it really hurts our ability to take care of our customers. And so what we have agreed upon is that when somebody is in some sort of a situation, they are sick, a parent, a child is sick. In the case of what we have here in Florida right now, some of the bridges are closed, so you can't make it from your home to work. Then instead of calling the boss at home, instead of calling the shop and saying, I'm not going to be there, what you are asked to do is call your fellow employees. Call someone and say, I can't be there. Would you cover the schedule for me? I'll take your day tomorrow if you'll take my day today, but I can't be there because I'm sick or whatever it may be. It worked in our business very, very well because, one, we worked hard to be cohesive, and two, because our staff created this together. That was their idea of how to solve it, and they all had experienced situations where at some point in time they had come to work, we were short a person, and they knew they had to work extra, extra hard to get everything done. So everyone, having experienced the problem, wanted to find a way to take and enhance our ability to work with each other. We also, in changing our procedures, wanted to improve the way that customers would experience our business, whether it be the way that we made a delivery, whether it be the way that we answered the telephone, perhaps it's the way that we followed up with our customers. But we asked ourselves, what could we do to absolutely impress the customer to say we've gone above and beyond, something that no one else would do out there? And so our discussions focused around our own personal shopping experiences. Where did we go at some point in time, have some kind of experience, and thought that our experience in that business was just phenomenal? And so we would look at it and say, well, wasn't that a great experience that you had? Oh, yes, it was. Well, then let's look at it and say, how then can we take the experience that we had, say, at a dry cleaner's and duplicate it in our business? You went to the local coffee shop and you had a great experience. How can we take and duplicate that so that we could have that same kind of experience in our shop with our customers? How can we add something to it? And what's amazing is the way that our employees participated and came with ideas and said, how could we do this? And what was fun was watching someone saying, this was neat, could we find a way? And someone would jump in and say, I got an idea. What if we did this? Could we add this to it? Could we perhaps do something else with it? And they built upon it, and it wasn't like they were simply repeating my ideas. They brought their own of how they really wanted to wow a customer. Step number 6, realizing that what separates us as a small business owner from the rest of the world is that we like to think that the individuals that work in our business are there because there are rewards for doing it. Not necessarily just financial rewards, but there's a reward of pleasing the customer. And there's a reward of being in a small family type situation that itself is a reward. It is a positive reinforcement of how I like to be with other people. So we created, in step number 6, a system for rewards, and we also provided a system by where we could take and review how someone was actually doing on the job. Well, here's how we handled it. Every 6 months, every person had a job review. Now, I've seen businesses that say that they go through and evaluate their employees once a year, and the majority of what I see are people who do a very informal setting. It doesn't seem to have a format to it, and it creates a problem because people don't know your thought process as to how you came up with this measurement of their particular performance. So, while I'll come to the job description in just a moment, what a job review was simply taking their description and giving them a copy of it, and the person doing the evaluating, quite frequently it was the owner, looking at the same copy of a job description and saying, I'm going to rate you on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being superior, how I think you're doing on the job. Likewise, I want you as the employee to look at a piece of paper, and with each of the items, same scale, 1 to 10, 10 being superior, I want you to rate yourself as to how do you think you are doing. When we have both completed it, we're going to exchange pieces of paper. I want to see what you think about yourself. I want to take and look at it, have you look at it and see what I think about your performance, and then we're going to engage in a conversation to where we're going to come to a conclusion as to what the score is. As an example, you may see yourself as doing a 90. I think your performance is a 75. So we've got to come to an agreement as to, well, where is it that I see that you're not performing things, and what is it that you think you're doing that I'm not catching that I need to be paying attention to? It does work both ways. And we're going to come to a score that is agreed upon by both of us. We also have a predetermined pay raise scale, which is based upon something to the effect of, like school, if you score 65 or below, that's an F as it was in school, and an F means you're terminated as an employee. Perhaps 65 to 75 says that you're on a probation. That was a D. That's your probationary period, and we're going to have to, at this point, re-evaluate you in 90 days, not 6 months, to see if you are improving. If you score above 75 to 85, this is the dollar amount of your raise. 85 to 95, this is your raise. 95 to 100, this is your raise. See, in this mannerism, an employee knows exactly what they're getting and how they earned it. The other way, what we found is that if we told someone, here's a 50-cent an hour raise, they had some very valid questions. What did I do to earn the 50-cent an hour raise? Well, what do I have to do to earn more than 50 cents an hour? And because we cannot give a definitive answer, it's kind of a lost process there. They're just kind of there. And one of the things with regard to giving the raise that is definitely excluded is any consideration for longevity. I've been here 5 years. That means no raise. That just means you've been here 5 years. You get a raise based upon your productivity. Well, what about the person who manages to score 100%? Then they get their raise. What happens? They come back 6 months from now and they hit 100 again. They're expecting another raise. Well, the answer is no, there's not a second raise. Why? Because you have already, as we would say, tagged out 100% of the job description. If you're going to get more money, then you're going to have to perform different tasks. You're going to have to assume more responsibilities. I, as a business owner, cannot take, once you have done a great job, whatever it is that your job assignment calls for you to be doing, and continually, every 6 months, giving you another raise simply because you're here. If you do so, what we're going to come to a point in time is where you are making a tremendous amount of money, and I'm going to be, as a business, out of sync with my financial statements because my payroll is going to be way too high. I visited with a business recently and they had a salesperson on their floor. The person was making over $22 an hour. Now, I don't know about your state, but I do know about here in Florida, there's not a whole lot of businesses that have got a salesperson on the floor making $22 an hour. But this person had been there a long time, and so they just felt compelled to keep giving raise after raise after raise, and the person never assumed any more responsibilities. And the owner said to me, well, this is a very loyal employee. And I said, well, of course they're a very loyal employee. They can't go anywhere else and get that money. That employee is never, ever going to leave you. They are as snug as a bug in a rug, as we say here in the South. Past the job review, and this is done every 6 months, we then also create rewards for people. When certain things happen, we get rewards. Some of our rewards are for individuals. You achieve, for example, we might take and have a reward to delivery people based upon the responses that we get back from customers about the way they were greeted at the door. We may have a reward to everyone on the team based upon the team's ability to get certain tasks done without mistakes. It takes both of them. There's not one that's better than another. You may take and track perhaps the average ticket that you have in your shop. And one of them that we had in our business at one point was called $5 more. And we thought that with every customer that either called on the phone or came into the shop, that by our sales skills, we could get another $5 increase on the sale. We knew what our average ticket would have been, say, for June of 2011, and if we completed June of 2012, where the average ticket was $5 higher, then the team reward was that everyone would come to my home, and we had a great cookout, steaks, hamburgers, everything nice and delicious to eat. Bring your spouse, bring your family, and come enjoy an afternoon of just being festive to celebrate what we have done. Another one that works very well, as you see my notation of the individual family rewards, and that is where you observe what an employee particularly likes and how to include their family. A quick example of this is we had an employee in our business at one point in time who won one of our sales contests and knew that this person enjoyed going to car racing. And the prize that they won was to get off early on a Saturday so he could go home and be with the family. There were tickets awarded to go to the races. There was money to go out to dinner and enjoy the race. There was money to go and enjoy snacks at the race. And there was money to pay for the babysitter while the husband and wife got to go and enjoy their evening together. Needless to say, when all of this money and tickets showed up, the spouse was quick to say, where did this money come from? And now the person who worked in our business had the opportunity to brag about what they had done and what their extra efforts were, and they received, most importantly, the praise of their spouse. Other forms that work are notes, recognition at your staff meetings, verbal thanks, giving additional assignments to somebody, and of course money works real well just to top it off. Number 7 is creating jobs specifications. What we were looking to do was to get our business past the point of being an employee and it was just follow somebody around to learn how to do a certain task. So what we created was in one of our classroom settings a scenario where we asked everyone to describe the details of how to perform certain tasks that were unique to a particular job. It might be how to deliver. It might be how to take and run the cash register. Many different tasks. The number depends upon your business. And as a group, those people who, A, performed the job, and those who had the need, the opportunity to interact with the person performing that task, as a group, they wrote the job specifications. This is how you are to handle a transaction at the cash register. I can't be the only person out there who's one of my biggest pet peeves is people who can't count change correctly or count it to themselves 3 times and then just hold out the hand with the money wadded up in it and drop it into the palm of the person and never say thank you. We had a job specification. This is how you take the money from the customer. This is how you are to count it back to them. This is how you are to hand them the receipt. Now, someone would look at that and say, isn't that a little overly detailed? How can there be anything overly detailed when it comes to taking care of a customer? How can anything be too customer-oriented when you're trying to give great customer service? Well, the next one I mentioned was the job descriptions, and it was done pretty much so in the same manner, in that our group participated in creating the short sentences that said, this is what we are to do. Now, I can tell you that I would have written it for them quite easily and said, this is your job description. But it doesn't mean as much as when they create their own. So in our study and in our class, I had an easel, a pen, and I said, all right, so what do you think is the most important task to be performed in the store? Now, we may talk about it for 10 minutes. We may talk about it for 30 minutes. But I can assure you when the discussion is over that the answer is going to be their number one job for anybody is take care of the customer. And probably number two is going to be ring up the customer at the cash register. And number three is probably going to be telephones, and so on and so on through the list. We begin the exercise by simply writing down all the different things on this easel as to what people are to do. And then we agree, let's prioritize it. Again, I could tell you what the list is going to be. I'll tell you exactly what the sequence is going to be. But I'm going to let them talk about it. How do we want it? And a person who's sales floor, a person who's working in the back, a person who's doing delivery, every person has a different job description. And all of those people who do the job, with some input from those who have to interact with them, create the job description. I found this far more effective than ever going out and spending hundreds of dollars for one of those pieces of software that would write it for me. I found it far more effective than ever going out and hiring a lawyer to write it for me with big, long, wordy sentences. They became items that my staff created for themselves. Much higher potential for success. Step number 9. After I've led, now it's time to get other people involved. So, who could teach? Who within your business is qualified to teach? And the idea is everybody. Everyone does something better than everybody else. Your challenge as an owner of the business is being able to find what it is that they do better than somebody else and giving them the opportunity to do it. So I allow everyone at some point in time to be a teacher. I also, because we now have a complete system that involves job descriptions, job specifications, it has job reviews, rewards, it's got a schooling process, it's got everything that we could find to provide the tools to make a great employee. We would allow someone to become the mentor to a new employee. Again, none of us follow somebody around and see what they do, but when somebody new was hired, they were assigned someone who obviously was achieving very high scores in their job description and said, you are the mentor to this person over the next 90 days. And as the mentor, there will be a reward for you if this person passes 90 days of employment and their score on their first job review is whatever number you choose. It's amazing how the mentor hugs so closely with the mentee, showing them how to do things, asking questions, taking a break with them, making sure they're engaged. Because quite honestly, if we're going to lose an employee, most of us lose the new employee very early in their employment. When I have a mentor assigned to this person, then they are staying close enough that they are asking questions and seeing how the person is liking it. And they are engaged because the mentor knows that when they get that person past 90 days, there's a reward for them. And one of the most popular rewards that we would have would just be a 4-day weekend. And it was with pay. So in other words, I'm going to give you probably a couple of days of pay for not even showing up. And somehow or another, what seemed to really get people's attention is that when I would personally work the salesperson's job, whatever it was, if I do your job and you got paid to not be there, everyone wanted to be a mentor of something. 2 steps left. Number 10, the chain of command. As you see this on the screen, our chain of command looked a little bit different than what I think most people are used to seeing. And the argument, as you look at this on the screen, goes like this. If we open the shop and I, the owner, am not there, and customers come in and can shop, we answer the telephone and they can do business with us, did we not sell product? Yes. Did we not sell services? Yes. Did we make money? Yes. But I wasn't there. If we reverse it and say, The owner is most important. If we open the shop and I'm there and customers do not come in, customers do not call, we make no sales, are we making money? The answer is no, we're not. Therefore, who is more important, the owner of the business or the customers? Obviously, it's the customers. So everywhere possible, we told ourselves, this is our chain of command. This chart hung over our time clock. In the front of our shop was an 8x10 color photograph of everyone that worked there. We copied this idea from the grocery store, where the grocery store just puts an 8x10 color photograph of here's who the manager is, or here's who the department managers are. We put everybody up there to say everyone's important. Everyone's 8x10, their little name tag underneath it so you knew who you were talking to, and the last picture, lower right, said the boss. And if you walked up and looked at the picture of the boss, what you realized you were looking at was a mirror. Again, emphasizing to our customers, this is what's most important. The last step, a very important step. So how do we hire these people? These are our key points. Number one, when they come in, they get a copy of the job description. I'm applying for a delivery person. Here's our delivery person's job description. It is attached to a job application of which you will be able to take and download from the FTD website a copy of this job application that you can take and tweak to your business. The job application is in essay form, no multiple choice, very minimal amount of fill in the blanks. I want people to be able to put together sentences. I want them to be able to be fluent to where they can express themselves. You can tell when people write 3-4 sentences whether or not they can easily explain themselves, if they can converse with other people. If they can't, I don't want to hire them. We would never give the job application and job description to anyone to take home. You were to complete it while you were in the business. This also eliminates the situation of somebody coming in with their best friend in tow. No, I'm sorry, I'm not hiring you as a pair. Whoever wants to apply for a job, come when you're ready to apply. You are to be dressed for work. You walk in casually dressed. Sorry, we do not take applications in this manner. I mean, after all, they're not your employee and they've dressed sloppily. What do you think they're going to dress like when they come to work for you? Well, it was acceptable when I applied for a job being sloppy. I'll come in now and be sloppy. No, they understand right off the bat. Now, you would say, does this not take and eliminate some of the prospects? Yes, it does. It eliminates the prospects you don't want. And the last little part to it is I learned that as the owner, I need to quit hiring people. I needed to let my best people do the hiring. Think about all the areas of your business. In our shop, our cashier, her name was Jessica. She was head and shoulders above everyone. Jessica would hire someone who would be a cashier. Someone else, if you might take and be a ranger, if you might be someone who is taking and doing sales floor design, if your shop also carries gifts, whatever it may be, but people who, in whatever job they do, were asked to hire the other people, but only the person who was the best. Everyone who worked in our store knew why Jessica was asked to do the hiring for her category, because she was the best, and the best will hire the best. When we as owners start doing the hiring, sometimes we start turning a blind eye to things. We get a little desperate because probably we're working extra hours in the shop that we'd like to cut those hours back. When Jessica would do the hiring, different story. Jessica was going to wait until she found the most ideal person to work in the job. And that's the way that we wanted it. So my friends, this is my sequence for 11 steps. I so wholeheartedly believe in it because I have lived it, we've tweaked it, we've worked it, I've tried so many different variations of it. These 11 steps, this is the way that makes it work. Copy this, and you're going to find that as you come out of the summer and move towards the fall, that you're going to have a great fall. You're going to have a great Thanksgiving, a great Christmas, because you're going to have a staff that's extraordinary. And you're going to find people who are looking to get some sort of a floral arrangement, and they're going to say, where do I go? And their friends are going to say, this is the shop that you go to. Why? Because they get the best customer service there. If we want to be different from somebody else, then we're going to have to take and make a commitment as a business owner that we're going to build these great employees one at a time. Janet, that's my message for this afternoon on this stormy Tuesday afternoon from here in Florida. Allow me to hand it back to you that you might take and take the questions that we would have.
Great. Thank you so much, Tom. And if you would like to advance to the last slide to show that webinar address.
There we go.
Tom's email address is on there. If anybody has any questions afterwards, they can please feel free to contact him. And, of course, the handouts are available at ftdi.com, including that job application that Tom did mention. So, Tom, I do want to thank you very much for sharing a lot of great information with us today. We are now open for questions, everyone. So if you have a question, simply type it in the question box on the upper right side of your screen, and we will take the questions in the order they are received. And I don't know, Tom, while we're waiting for some questions to come in, if you have any more tidbits of information that you can share with us.
Well, I would share a couple points. One, while I tell people that all of this information, you write it in ink, I want you to think that mentally it's written in pencil and you have an eraser on the back end of the pencil. That all of these require monitoring and changes. We did not write our job description one day and never looked at it again. As we saw the opportunity to improve, we made these changes. And it was because someone on our staff would say something to the effect of, I think we need to pay more attention to this, or here's an opportunity that we could be even better than we were before. And I do want to let people know that as I've shared this with people, they go, oh my gosh, you must have just been a real dictator. And I go, oh no, not at all. Our employees loved working there. They got along great. What I find is that employees do not like an unstructured work format. They want to know that they're a part of a unit, they're a family, and that everyone who's there is working to achieve the same goal. It's when we have employees that do not follow along that the really good employees are sitting there and wondering, saying, when are you going to get rid of this person? Because, I'm working hard here, and this other person is not working hard, and they're saying, gee, boss, are you not seeing this? Do you not know that so-and-so's not getting work done and I'm having to do all this extra work? Good employees want to see more of themselves. They're just waiting on the owner to decide that they want to make the same commitment that your employee is trying to make to be a part of your business.
Great. All right. Well, we do have our first question from Penny. She is wondering, how have you outlined disciplinary actions, Tom?
When we had issues, I would say one, they were very few. We would sit down one-on-one, and it would be noted. We would take notes as to the conversation. If I was doing the disciplinary situation, I would sign off. The employee would sign off of it, and when it came time for the job review, this piece of paper came out of the file, and we looked at it. A short-term one that works very, very well was that we used index cards. We went to an office supply store and we bought a stack of green ones and red ones. And when someone did something above and beyond, we filled out the little green card, person's name, the date, person who observed it, what they did that was a great job, had them sign it, and this was referred to as an attaboy card, as in you earned one, attaboy. If you did something wrong under our standards, you got a red card, and the same format was filled out, and it was referred to as an oh boy, except we usually did it with a slap of the hand to the head going, oh boy. A red card canceled a green card, and when an employee obtained 20 points, 20 plus points, so let's say they had 21 green cards and one red, that's 20 points, then they got a reward, and it was something as simple as a $25 gift card. And amazing how that engaged people, because they knew when they did a screw-up, that took away points from what they had done, and when they did something, I mean, it's something as simple as, I'm going to go clean the restroom, or I'm going to go fix a burnout light bulb, or I'm going to follow up with this customer and make sure that everything went the way they wanted. So a little light on the disciplinary for bad action, a lot of reward for the positive actions.
All right, great. We've got kind of a similar question. Karen and Barbara both want to know what's the best way to advertise job openings in your experience, and what's the best source to do that?
The first one is we always were taking applications 365 days a year. Never stop looking, because you don't know who's moving into your community who could be a great employee. If you're looking for someone as a student to come in and help you, go to the local schools and look and see if they have a DECA program, DECA, that stands for Distributive Education Clubs of America, or another group is called FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America. Hunt up the teacher in the school and say, I'm looking for one of your prize students. If you would rather take and have someone more of an adult, your spot does not necessarily lend itself to being a kid, the best people to knock on the door is go to AARP. Yes, it's AARP that you see with the advertisements on TV. They have, in years past, in my experience, had a work program. You only have to be 55 now to qualify for AARP. People walk in the door, apply. Our shop had a wonderful experience with a local AARP person who was always on the outlook for us. And we'd get phone calls. She says, somebody walked in the door here, and this person looks so sharp, and I heard him talking to someone. This person's really got it on the ball. Would you like me to send this person to you? It wasn't meant as a threat to any of my employees, but we were always looking for somebody to walk in the door and apply. Because part of it is retail is a about now type of system. This doesn't have a, I've done this okay, my job's secure for 6 months. It's always about what have you done for me, the customer, today. So those three organizations, I say, are great sources for possible, because you're going to have somebody in each of them who's going to do some of the preview work for you and eliminate a lot of the possible candidates for you.
Great. Barbara also has another question. What do you recommend as a procedure to find out if the person is truly qualified for a position? She said, maybe they come in, they say they are, and then after they hire them and have them working for a while, then they're not. They find out they're not really.
Not quite what you were expecting. Yes. Well, in this situation, when you download the job application, you're going to see some of the questions that are going to help answer this. For example, one was going to say, tell me where you have worked before. Tell me about the special skills that you had at that place. Tell me what you see as the special skills that you're going to bring to our place. Now, our experience was when they answer those questions, they're kind of specific. I mean, they get the ones that I want to interview further. They're giving me real good answers. This is my skill set. This is what I can do, and that's the person I want to interview. I will also tell you that in having used AARP, they did in our area have a program that said, while they will do a preliminary interview for you, if they send you somebody and you want to, shall we say, test drive that employee, they will pay the first 40 hours of employment for that person to allow you to test drive them. And if at the end of the 40 or anywhere before you get to the 40, if you say this is not the right person for me, you kick them back to AARP and you pay nothing. You pay no salary. You pay no unemployment claim. They'll say, okay, tell us what didn't work and let us see if we can find you somebody else. It's a little better.
All right. Well, I don't have any other questions. Kind of our last call for questions now. If anybody has any other questions, reminder to just simply type it in the question box on the upper right side of your screen. And we'll wait another few seconds to see if anybody's. All right, Kathleen does have a question. If you have it in the posted let's let things go, what's the best way to start a new route to better?
Okay, let me see if I understand this correctly. So if I'm in a situation and things have not been going right, and perhaps I as an owner have not been self-disciplined enough to do it the way I should have, and now I'm ready, okay, I'm ready to change.
Right, with your employees, a better route to go with your employees.
Confession is good for the soul in front of the employees, and say, This is what I'm learning. A great crutch I've seen is find a good business book, and I would invite people to go look. There's a long list of books, several hundred books, that I have found over the last 20 years that are great on business management. They're on my website, profitsplus.org. None of the books I wrote, just good books that I've read over the years. I thought, wow, these are really impressive. That deal with aspects of business management, employees, books like Please Don't Do What I Asked. Please Don't Just Do What I Asked, Do What Needs to Be Done. There's a whole section of great titles like that. And sit down and read one of the books. Let it get you fired up. And then take it to your employees and say, I've read this book, and this tells me a lot, and I've decided I'm going to make a change. We're going to go in a different direction now, and this is what I'm learning. And so this is where we're going to start the school. Just try to eliminate as much of step one as you can of being the gripe session and saying, this is the progress. And say, I listened to this FTD webinar, and I heard this guy, and this is what he did at his place, and I want that at my place. What he had, I want it. And so this is the way we're going to go. You do not, as an owner, have to apologize to anybody for deciding that I want to be a better person. I want to be a better store owner.
All right. Well, it looks like we are out of questions for today. If anybody does have any additional questions, again, Tom's email is on there. Please feel free to email him any additional questions you might have. I would like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. And if you missed a portion of this webinar or you would like to listen to it again, a replay will be available at FTD University Online in a few weeks. And of course, the webinar materials are always available at ftdi.com. Click on the FTD University logo on the right side of the homepage, and then click through to the webinar series page. The next FTD webinar is scheduled for Tuesday, July 24th. FTD Education Team member Keith White will show you how to capture the keys to visual merchandising to attract, engage, and motivate the customer to purchase and ensure a memorable experience to take with them once they leave your store, ensuring that they will want to return. Registration is already available at ftdi.com, so be sure to register as soon as possible to reserve your spot. FTD is holding the FTD Makeover Magic Contest in conjunction with Keith White's webinar next month. To enter the contest, members must register and participate in the live webinar on July 24th, submit a 75-word essay, and 1 or 2 photos of your shop. More details and official contest rules can be found at www.ftdi.com/makeover. Of course, we will be sending you a survey to gather your feedback on today's webinar, so please complete this brief survey as we do utilize your input to help improve future webinars and other education programs for you. Again, thank you to Tom for sharing such great information on creating a great staff that works together. This concludes FTD's webinar. You aren't going to find great employees. You have to build them one at a time. Thank you.